Hello and welcome to another episode of the SEO Unplugged podcast. I'm your host, Itamar Blauer. Today, I'm joined with Judith Lewis, who's the founder at Decabbit Consultancy. Judith, how's it going?
Well, any day in link building is a good day. So, you got to take it positively. Every day has to be a positive. Start on a positive note. You're alive. There's your first barrier to jump over. You're alive. It's a good day.
You know, I do agree with that. I think any day that we're alive is a good day. Any day to talk about link building is a good day, which is what we're doing today. So, obviously, with the title of this episode, the new era of link building, which would suggest that things have changed or things have happened. So, from your experience, Judith, what have you sort of seen in recent times that sort of changed around link building? Maybe it's perception, maybe it's why people are doing it, all these sorts of things. Let's sort of unravel that a little bit.
I guess for me, it's not really too new, but for some other people, it might be a little bit new because it's changing our mindset from one way of thinking about links to a different way of thinking. And anyone who's been at my talks over the years will probably have gotten a hint at this because many years ago, many years ago, maybe before some people were in SEO. We won't talk about when I got into computing, which is before many people were born, but many years ago, like the 2011s, 2010s, we would buy links by the shed load and just huge tons of links, lots and lots and lots of links. And they would rank. We would rank, no problem. Mind you, the search, quality wasn't that great then either. But buy a bunch of links, a bunch of directory links, maybe some guest post footer blog stuff, sidebar, everything. Who cares? Just buy the link. And you'd rank well. And then Google penalized that. But I think what got lost in just the pursuit of ranking well is, why are we building links? And as SEOs sometimes, and social media people too, probably get stuck in this sometimes, we only think about our end goal, not the bigger business. So our end goal is rank better. Well, why are we ranking better? Who cares, really? I work with a number of clients right now. They all want to rank better. Why? Each one of them has a different business model. One is publishing, one is B2C, one is B2B. Each of them has a different reason for wanting to rank well. And I think when I realized that, or not realized, but when I embraced fully, it's not just about ranking well, we want the click. So if we don't get the click, who cares how we rank? If we rank number one, but number two gets all the clicks, who cares that we rank number one? We're obviously title tag and meta description poor. And even with Google replacing them, it shouldn't be that poor. Even with Google replacing them, we should still look good enough to click. But if we're number one and we're not getting the clicks, well, did we do our job? I would say no. So for me, the new era of link building is all about, it's almost old-fashioned advertorial style, in that I, at least, I believe that we should be buying links, or let's not call it buying links, acquiring links on channels where we're likely to actually get a sale later. So if I compensate a person for their time and effort of putting something together, my brief will be, I want you to look at this product or this service. I want you to honestly comment on it. If it is really bad, can you just give me a heads up first so I can talk to the devs and maybe get things fixed? But I'll communicate with the person whose time I am buying and tell them what it is that I'm trying to achieve, what I would like, ideally, converting traffic, but traffic is good. And that I want them to go there because the post or the tweet or whatever has been written in such a compelling way that they have no choice but to click through. Not in a number two will amaze you, although I'm willing to go with that sometimes. But something where they've written something so compelling about the client that people who are in their audience say to themselves, wow, that actually, you know what? That does sound great. I'm going to click through and see. And when I buy links, I always use the salacious title, buy links, woo, she buys links. But what I am doing is I'm briefing someone. They are going out, researching, writing, posting to the audience that they have grown themselves, spent time, money, and effort growing. And I'm leveraging that audience. I'm saying, look, I think your audience is likely to buy my client's product. So what I would like to do is engage you to write about them and send me clicks. And I do. I get the traffic and I get converting traffic. Doesn't always pay for the entire run of what I'm doing, but generally it'll cover off some stuff fairly well. So generally I'm happy with things. Generally. Not always, but generally.
Right. And so I wonder then, in that case, the way that you're thinking about it is, I would say, quite different from, do you know, I would even be more confident in saying most people in the SEO industry who are acquiring links, they will say that they're doing it because they want a link for the sake of getting a link from a website that's authoritative or relevant so that they can rank higher. But from what you're saying, it's more, I want to get the link because I want people to actually get to my site and convert and buy my product or pay for my service or offering or whatever that may be, which then leads on to the point of actually tracking, because then I would say that most people are looking at links in terms of, okay, the KPIs we're looking for here is just getting links from websites that have a third-party SEO score of their domain, rating, strength, authority, whatever it is, of at least 70. And that's all they care about. Once they get that, then they're fine. They're done. They move on to something else. But what you're saying is actually, we need to be monitoring and tracking that to actually see what value are we actually getting? What are the tangible impacts that we're seeing from the links that we're building, which kind of takes it that extra step further, which, like you said before, more aligns with the business goals, which I think most people aren't doing. So why would you say that most people aren't doing that? Because I would assume that most people aren't doing that for sure. But why is that?
I think because we're so focused on the end result, right? The higher ranking, that we're just not thinking about why. Why do we want a higher ranking? And it's something when I was, I recently, shall I say, because I don't know when this will go out, but I recently did some work with Wix on how to report to clients. And one of the things that I tried to encourage people to do within the reports were understand how SEO plays into the wider business. And I think the moment that you open yourself up to thinking about the business, not just SEO, suddenly you're focused on, well, how much money am I making for the business? If I'm getting a top ranking, is that actually working? And we just don't think about that. We think about, my job is to get higher rankings. My job is keyword research. My job is technical auditing. We think about that job in a singular sense, and we don't go beyond and think, well, my job is to get higher rankings. Why do I care? Or, well, why do I want higher rankings for best golf clubs Texas? I've never worked on golfing, but golfing shops, or best chocolate London. Also never worked for a chocolate company. For pay, generally I donate time at conferences. So why do we want to rank for that? What is the outcome of that? Well, we want to rank number one. Why? Because number one gets all the clicks. Well, it doesn't. Because anybody who's been around for a while in SEO knows, if your title tag and meta description are sexier than number one and you're number two, you get the click. So if we think about the larger perspective, so to speak, of the business goals as a whole, not just our goals as SEOs. So the business goals, we then suddenly realize that actually the reason why we're building all these links or optimizing these pages, looking at user flow through the website, is because we want to sell stuff. And if we realize that our goal is not top rankings, our goal is selling stuff. And I know we're not PPC people. Trust me. I know. I'm 100% there with you. We are not PPC people. But direct response isn't really an SEO thing. but we can actually measure. I've got, just to go off on a tangent, because that's what I do. I had to look at a client's data the other day and landing pages, and we were doing some deeper analysis. And I was looking and I was like, oh, look at all my bloggers still sending me traffic. And this is like years later, 2 years later, I was seeing tracking codes from bloggers from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, still sending traffic. Now, unfortunately, it's like one click here, one click there. They didn't convert on that click, but it doesn't mean they didn't convert later. So, from a link building point of view, those links might have helped a little bit, but they helped a lot in brand awareness, in traffic to the site. Like, I achieved my goal of continued awareness of that client through those links. And while they might seem like bot links, I was paying for access to that audience, because that audience is going to make my client money. So as SEOs, the reason we don't think about it the way that I do is, I guess, because we're focused on our jobs, and our job is to get the client higher rankings. But that's not actually our job. Our job is to help the client sell more stuff. And even I lose sight of this sometimes. I've gotten really wrapped up in oh, I'm an SEO. This is my job. This is how I do it. And I've lost sight of, actually, we need to be selling stuff. So I think that the moment we embrace that actually our jobs are selling things, not just higher rankings, is the moment that we look at link building a little differently.
Sure, sure. And actually, just as a side question, with those links that you've acquired from these bloggers, did you go through the Google textbook of them wanting you to put a sort of rel sponsored attribute there, or like what was your sort of play when it came to that?
We have a very detailed briefing form. And because in the UK, we have the 2008 Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Practices Regulation, which is it is a regulation, which means that it comes with a fine or jail time if you violate it. Now, on top of that is layered ASA and CAP codes. Those are what you get done for, so to speak, if you violate that law or that regulation. So before you actually are going to end up in jail, the ASA is going to come along, slap your wrists, and then they'll slap you with a fine. And then if you're a repeat offender and it's actually got material impact on the marketplace, then you'll start looking at actual prosecution. But it's founded in this 2008 legislation. On top of that is the ASA code. We tell the bloggers about the CAP code, the CAP guidance, and the ASA code, which is easier to digest than telling them about a regulation, which is scary. We also tell them about Google's requirements for links, that where there's been some compensation and the link is there. Now, I don't specify, I give them a whole load of things. I'm like, I'm interested in getting reviews on, or I'm interested in getting traffic to all of these pages. You can pick which one is the most relevant. Just give me a heads up what you're actually going to pick, because I can then put it on my little spreadsheet. Even if they don't, I still visit the article and look at it, double check that they've disclosed it, because that's the ASA guidelines. They have to disclose that they got compensation for that post. And also, I have to make sure that they actually follow the Google guidelines of rel sponsored. And
Okay,
I'm
so
going
you're
to
saying
sneeze
no,
because
no worries.
it's spring, and the spring is bringing flowers and pollen and
I can well, I understand. But so are you saying then that you did get rel sponsored for a lot of these? Do you get some people who don't and just sort of leave it as a default link state, or what does that look like mostly?
I give them the choice of rel sponsored or just a no follow on the link. So I don't force them to do a sponsored. I offer them no index, not no index. Sorry, jeez, don't do that. No follow on the link itself. Yeah, don't do no index. That's bad. That's bad. Then no one finds your page, and it's useless to us and you, because no one finds your page. So no one goes to the page. No one sees your product. No one clicks a link. So quite separate from rankings, that's bad, because commercially it's bad. So for them, I can't force them. I will check, and we have had to remind people at times. The ASA stuff is a legal requirement, so we do really, really need them to say this is an ad or this is a sponsored post or something like that. And as a result of it being tagged like that, all the links should be no follow. I can only ask them 2 or 3 times, and then it's just, on their head, be it I have a paper trail that shows that I made every effort to try to get them, but it's their blog. The only other thing then is to ask them to take it down because they've failed to comply with legal or Google guidelines. Google guidelines, I'm less paranoid about. Legal guidelines, I'm much more paranoid about. So if they don't say that it's an ad or sponsored, I get very nervous because that's more of a legal requirement.
Well, do you know what? It sounds actually like your approach to this is very different to, I would say, again, the majority of the industry. Because the majority of the industry are worried about the Google consequences of these things. Whereas you're like, I'm more worried about the legal aspects of this. And also, most people would pretty much say, "Oh, I want to build links and I want it to be a quote unquote followed link," right? They want a default state. They do not want anyone to add any sort of no follow attribute, a rel sponsored attribute, UGC, whatever it is. They just want it to be default because they care. Again, it goes to the end goal, which is they want to rank higher. Whereas from what you're saying, it sounds like you're actually going at it from the angle of I want to only find sites that will generate relevant traffic that will convert for the business, and therefore it doesn't really matter if they're going to hint to Google that that link should be sponsored or no followed. Whereas it's like you just want people to actually convert, and you're sort of practicing what you preach, which is good, right? And I think that
Well,
approach, well, I would say it's
I
good
mean, I
from a
still
moral
I
aspect,
I
but
measure the bloggers. Like, there's let's be honest, I also want the higher rankings. I'm not gonna give those up. So I do want higher rankings. It's all about the higher rankings. But, besides the higher rankings, I have a legal compliance, and, the law changed recently, so they slapped the client with the fine and not the blogger immediately. So if the blogger screws up, we're the ones that carry the can, not the blogger. Now, if a blogger doesn't put rel no follow on it or rel sponsored, then I'm not necessarily going to beat them over the head with a stick and say, take that damn blog post down. You've not put rel sponsored or rel no follow on that link. I can only ask them, but I'm not going to push it because a natural and organic link profile has both follow and no follow links. And I would argue there's no such thing as do follow, but there is follow. Um, I should reread the RFC on that, but I think it's not do follow.
mhm.
Um, so the desire for me is a high page rank, DR, CR, TR, whatever. So either Majestic ranking algorithms. I do use Majestic a lot. So I use Majestic a lot for my link building. I look at the links in Majestic. I look at the sites. I check them out. I look at what links come in. I look at what links go out. Because if they've got bingo, poker, whatever links going out, they may have a really good audience, but how trustworthy is that audience? So I do still use traditional SEO stuff. I want traditional SEO results, but they're tempered by the fact that if I'm getting traffic, relevant traffic that's likely to convert from those links, those are going to be the best quality links for Google, and our rankings change. Our rankings do change. We do go up in the rankings. We do improve our visibility on search results, even like for the B2C client, even against Amazon. We increase our visibility. We do, fight toe to toe with Amazon. They often win, sadly. But if we're in second place and we have images on the search results and we have a really good, sexy meta description, really good, sexy title tag, we will get the click. Not as often as Amazon, who have a lot of trust, but we will get the click because we have worked at it and we rank better. So, we've got to think about the fact that the link is supposed to get us more visibility so that on search results they're finding us. But if they've also seen us mentioned on a blog or ambiently aware of us because on X one of the bloggers they follow tweeted about us or something like that, it all increases the psychology of trust. So when that better ranking from link building does come through, we are the ones that they click, even if we're number 2 or number 3 against Amazon, because we're trustworthy, and they know, they've already seen us, and they know that we're an honest business. So I guess for B2C, which is a lot of what people are building links for, that is a big part is, am I going to get traffic from this? Am I going to sell something off of this? And there's one blogger who I won't name. She is my absolute all-time favorite blogger. She has sent us so much converting traffic. And I saw again in my most recent analysis, she has sent multiple people. And I think I last used her in like November, December last year. And it's long time after that. And she's still sending us traffic. And that blog post will be buried by now. And this is what it's all about. That blog post is sending us traffic, whether it hopefully is still positively impacting our rankings as well. Maybe she's got it linked to from the homepage, and so it's still positively impacting our rankings. But, there's two sides to this coin. And if we're blowing our load on links that are going to go after a few days because they get buried on Forbes or whatever, because there's so much other stuff going up on Forbes, we're going to lose out on the value that link could bring long term. Whereas if we're buying links off of people likely to send us traffic, well, that link is going to keep working, and it's going to work sending traffic as well as the rankings. So I do want the SEO outcome. But like, if we look at this one blogger who's still sending traffic and converting traffic, I want that too.
No, 100%. And I think that alludes to the point about monitoring, right? Which is like, you do need to keep on top of the links that you've built and actually, first of all, check if, if that link is even still live. Is that page indexed? What kind of traffic have you got from that page? Can you then check and track that over time to see if you've had any conversions, which is what you're doing, which I would say should be the default. It should be the default state of building links and tracking their performance. That's all part of performance, as well as, if we even exclude the whole ranking aspect for the keywords you're trying to push. The last thing I want to sort of get to in this conversation, which has been really, really interesting so far, is in terms of, we say, the new era of link building, right? We've seen that Google spokespeople have come out in recent times saying that links matter less. Now, before I ask you about this, I just always find it quite funny, because as soon as something like that crops up, you get a lot of people in the industry who's like, all right, that's it. Pack it away. We don't need any links anymore. They're less important. There are more things that are more important. But I always sort of have the approach of like, well, of course, more things get added into the mix. Google becomes a lot more comprehensive, more complex in its systems and algorithms and how it treats ranking, indexing, all that sort of stuff. But just because there's more things added, I wouldn't necessarily say that, stop buying links because other stuff is way more important. But what's your take on all of this? The kind of communication that's come out and how the industry sort of responded to that.
When I interviewed Gary at SERPConf, he didn't say that links were not important. He said that it's taking them fewer links for a Google database size of links. It's taking them few links to actually understand the value of a site. Now, we have to understand the Google database size and our perception as people are very different. So I will build, several hundred links in a year, or, in a quarter for some clients in the past. And to me, that's a lot of links. And now Google is saying they only need a few links. Well, but that's for a Google database size. And a few links in Google, in a database the size of Google's database, is a lot of links. So I think that links are still important. And, way back when, we used to say links were 40%, content's 40%, technical's 20. I would say that, maybe links are 30 or 35% of the mix. Could be 20% of the mix. But technical is on or off, right? If technical is wrong, technical is stopping your site ranking. Generally, if it's wrong, it's off. If it's right, it's on. If you don't get technical right first, excuse my language. I almost said a naughty word there. And so the links, forget about the links. But generally, don't worry about the links, because if your technical's off, it's off, and that's it, you're done. If you got to fix technical first. Absolutely make sure that your technical SEO is solid, founded well. And I mentioned RFCs earlier. Too few SEOs know what an RFC is. Technically, it's called a request for comment. They're not asking you to comment on the RFC for SMTP as an SEO, because you don't probably have any input into the SMTP, IMAP, or POP protocols, because you're not dealing with mail servers. But the protocols are the way that we communicate, not we as humans, but we as machines. And if a machine doesn't understand your language, if I go to Germany and I don't understand what somebody is saying to me in German, maybe we have a little bit of shared language, because English and German, but not a lot. Therefore, I can't communicate with them. They can't communicate with me. We can't exchange information. It is the exact same thing on the internet. If we don't have a standard, it's Esperanto for the internet RFCs. If we don't have a standard way of communicating, we can't. And that's why, Gary and others in Google will support and also contribute to RFCs, is they're establishing the way that we communicate. So, technical SEO, it's not just BS. It is about establishing a common language that the other computers can understand from your computer and not impeding them. So not deliberately trying to use pig English in order to communicate to obscure what you're saying, because if you're doing that, no one is understanding you and you're not selling your message. So technical SEO, on or off, get that done, and go back through this podcast series and listen to the other podcasts that cover technical stuff, because you need to know this for it to work. So technical SEO, on or off, that is so important. Content is the way that we contextualize things. And if we're B2C selling, or B2B, or M2B, we take a person that arrives at our website through a journey. Right? So they're landing at a page. They land at that page that is not the conversion page. It is very rare that on a first visit, someone lands at a page where they will convert, because they want to know, especially in M2B and B2B, they want to know more. I've worked in systems that are solutions for the airline industry. You do not convert off of one page. That is not the way this works. So you have to take them on a journey, and you have to think about that. And what are the words that they're using that will refine their search between the start of their journey and the end of their journey? And that is where the keyword research comes in, and funnels and all that other stuff. In web terms, the SEOs out there, we are looking at this, and we need to make sure that when we're looking at a conversion term versus a top of funnel term, we are communicating things differently in our content. And so that's the big content thing. And then, how is anyone finding anything? In the early days of the internet, we had things called web rings and web link pages. So we found our way through the internet, this convoluted internet that had no search engines, because and even when they were invented, they were spammed to hell. I hope that's okay for me to say that. They were spammed to heck. And they just, it was impossible to find anything. So we used web rings, we used link pages, we surfed the internet that way. And that is the founding principle of every search engine that was built from that time, which includes Google, includes Inktomi, which was part of Yahoo. Yahoo doesn't have their own algorithm anymore, but a lot of the search engines were founded on that. Links will always be important, because they contextualize what that landing page is about. Even if it's only internal links on your own page, it contextualizes what that target page is about. So links are always going to be important. They will be not as heavily weighted maybe now as they were before by Google, but they will always be a foundational part of how we understand the internet and pages on the internet. So don't ignore links, even internal links. Internal links, super important, because how else is Google and Bing and Yandex and Baidu and all the other ones, how are they going to find your internal pages? Yeah, you could ping them, tweet them, whatever, but how are they going to find them otherwise? So internal linking, super critical, but that could be technical SEO-ish. So you got to be thinking about all these things, but links are hugely important, will always be important. I think it's context that people are missing sometimes when Google says, well, links are less important. It doesn't mean links are not important. They're just lowering in importance compared to other things. In the past, we used to think that the age of a domain made a difference. Nowadays, you can't buy old domains and pop new content on it because Google got wise to that, and they no longer pass the value that would have been inherent in a site with all of those links. So that link value is lost because you bought an old domain and changed the content on it. So yes, 100%. The value is diminished, but it doesn't mean it's zero.
Well, that's it, right? So, I mean, like you said, I think that sort of sums it up nicely. It's like even if links might be less important, relatively speaking, it does not mean that they're not important. And I don't think that there'll ever be a time when links aren't important. I think they'll always be, as you said, it's the way that website search engines, the internet is able to access content and pages, and that will always be the case. I can't imagine there being a time when that's not the case, but who knows what's going to happen. But Judith, thank you so much for sharing some really interesting and fascinating insights today. Where can people find you if they want to learn more or ask you any questions?
Well, if they want to learn more, I think I have some decks up on SlideShare, but mainly I speak at conferences. I teach, so companies bring me in to train their staff. And I hang out on X, which was Twitter, but is now X. And you can like ask me anything there anytime, and I will do my best to help or point you in the direction of someone who can. And if you want to find my business, it's decabbit.com, which is weird. So I would just look for my name, Judith Lewis, on the internet search engine of your choice. You can add SEO or chocolate or wine judge to the end of that and refine your searches even further and see the craziness I get up to.
Amazing. All right, Judith, thank you so much. And thank you also to everyone listening and watching this episode. And as always, we'll catch you in the next one. Hey, you've reached the end of this video, but don't worry, there's plenty more great content that you can watch right now. All you have to do is click one of the two video links on the left side of the screen. And also, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to never miss out on future uploads.